Okay, good morning. It is Monday, February 2nd. Welcome to Monday Motivation. Brought to you by BAI, of course. I want to admit, the term motivation obviously is thrown around so often, and it's not my favorite word, but we just know it tends to be a word that people label these kinds of talks and this kind of information. But I just want you all to know that I certainly would never presume to think that I could motivate you, right? I mean, after all, the only person who can motivate you is, of course, you, right? But also, at the same time, we could all be exposed to an idea, a thought, an experience. We could hear something that can trigger some thoughts within us, right? That could switch our focus, that could maybe make new connections of understandings, bring things into a different light, a different perspective. And this may lead to new creative thought patterns. And of course, these new thought patterns can then lead to new activity, of course, then generating better results, you guys. It happens all the time. Make sure you're always listening with an open mind. You never know when something can trigger a switch inside of you that you could take and run with. The legendary Zig Ziglar would be asked oftentimes, people would tell him, gosh, this motivation stuff, it doesn't last. People get all pumped up for a little while, maybe for a week, and then it just dies down. It's not permanent. And then, of course, Zig would always respond with, well, you're right, but neither is bathing permanent. But we still recommend you stay at it. And so, great point there. Don't be ashamed of looking for motivation. It's okay to admit that you need a little motivation once in a while. You're a human being. Right now, it's February 2nd. It's Monday. This is the time when those New Year's resolutions tend to dwindle down a little bit. Maybe the excitement, the energy of starting fresh for the year might dip a tiny bit. Look, don't let that happen to you. Don't lose your momentum, you guys. Today, I want you to stay focused. Get refocused on your personal vision and mission. Let me start with this. A man comes across two stonecutters, you guys. Two stonecutters. The first stonecutter he goes up to and he says, "Sir, tell me what you're doing." Right? The stonecutter replies, "Well, I'm cutting stone and I do it pretty fair for a fair wage." Okay. The man then goes to the second stonecutter and he asks the gentleman, "Sir, explain the work that you're doing." And the man replies this way. He says, "Well, I am building a magnificent cathedral, a place that will glorify the Almighty God. And this is going to be a meeting place where people can come and join in fellowship, right? And be inspired by their faith. This is going to be a place that's going to house families in their worship for generations." That's how he described his work. Well, let me ask you a question. Which one is most likely to make precise cuts and have the smoothest edges? Which one is most likely to maintain the best focus and the best attitude? Which stone cutter in this example is less likely to miss work, show up a little bit earlier, stay up a little bit later, not cut corners, and not to burn out? Which stone cutter perceives their work as a privilege and a fantastic opportunity. Here's the thing. Research shows that human beings are at their best physically, mentally, even spiritually when they are in the pursuit of a worthy vision, mission, or dream. Not necessarily have a numerical, quantitative goal in the short term. Those are very important, of course, especially in business, but make sure that you're also giving you what you need internally, this compelling vision and mission to obsess on, right? As we get older, we tend to replace dreams with management, right? Consider the charisma of a manager, and now consider the charisma of a visionary. My former employer, Tony Robbins, and mentor, would say that, look, most people aren't lazy. What happens is we just get so darn busy making a living that we forget to design a life. Don't let that happen to you. refresh, reclarify your vision. Someone once said, life is painting a picture. It's not just doing a sum. In Proverbs, it says, without vision, the people perish. Why do humans need vision, dreams, mission rather than quantifiable goals? Well, AI technology responded this way. Having dreams, vision, mission, rather than just quantitative goals, provides intrinsic motivation and purpose and long-term direction, while numerical goals might lack emotional connection. And it promotes a short-term, rigid thought process. A vision shapes the why and enables adaptability. In the early 1900s, human achievement researcher and author Napoleon Hill studied the fundamentals of success for a long time, and his works were amazing. He created this document called The Laws of Success, and he identified an essential ingredient in his fundamentals. He called it a definite chief aim, you guys, a definite chief aim. That's what he described it as. It's a clear and compelling vision of the future that would dominate a person's conscious and then ultimately subconscious mind. And when that happened, you guys, when the definite chief aim would be first be in the conscious mind and then ultimately take over the subconscious mind, he said that is when the superachiever becomes literally unstoppable. He explained that human beings subconsciously move in the direction of their most dominant thought. Okay, human beings subconsciously, 24/7, without any effort at all, we move in the direction of our most dominant thought. You see, the definite chief aim becomes that dominant thought, right? And it's that dominant thought that gets wired, embedded into the nervous system and the mind and the spirit and everything else. And it allows superachievers to stay focused, to overcome adversity, to make purposeful decisions and investments, all aligned with the definite chief aim and inspire your creativity and to attract others who could assist you in this aim as well. The definite chief aim allows someone to focus and then have compounded energy in the direction of the definite chief aim exponentially. So it compounds over time. Here's an analogy. Think of a magnifying glass, right? If I have a magnifying glass, hot sun, and a piece of paper, and I wave the magnifying glass around in circles, what happens? Nothing, right? You just get dizzy. But we all know the deal. You take a magnifying glass, you hold it perfectly still between the hot burning sun's rays and a piece of paper, and you allow the concentrated rays to hit one single point. That point ultimately ignites, right? Think of the difference between someone who builds 1,000 3-foot wells versus someone who builds one 200-foot well. That's the power of the definite chief aim. It allows us to channel and concentrate our energies, our thoughts, our talents, our resources in one purposeful, clear, compelling, inspiring direction. That's what we want to ignite. And by the way, this idea that the key to success was to have a focal point, to focus on your definite chief aim and not focus on your circumstances, not focus, right, on the distractions. This was the key to success from Napoleon Hill's work in the early 1900s, when at the time, the information, the distractions were a mere fraction of what it is today, right? This is more important now than ever before. On average, individuals are exposed to thousands of daily digital impressions, you guys, with users interacting with their phones, just an example, 2,600 times, tapping, swiping, or clicking and checking our phones between 85 to 145 times per day. Consider this, what we are focusing on at any moment in time. It's either taking us where we want to go or it's taking us away from where we want to go, right? What we focus on, that's where our energy goes. That's where our energy flows, right? So at any moment in time, what we're focusing on is working for us or it's working against us. We want to make sure that our mind is working for us and not against us. Our mind is a powerful tool. We want to make sure that we do that. Give your mind and your soul what it craves, you guys. Give it a vision that inspires you and that is worthy of your best efforts. Refocus this week. Get ready. Let's have an awesome month, you guys. Henry David Thoreau said it really well. He said, if one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams and dares to live the life that they have imagined, they will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Clearly a vision, and then find your motivation and the discipline to take you there, you guys. Have an awesome week, everybody, and a fantastic February. Let's keep the momentum. Stay focused on your vision, not your circumstances. Have a great week. Bye.